You know, when we look around, we can truly see Bible prophecy is unfolding before our eyes. There's so much happening in the world, it's so hard to keep up with everything. You know, like I always say, prophecy is in part, it's this big puzzle. Only God sees the full picture, but we get parts and see things happening in part. But you know, something has been set up over the last few years while the whole world was distracted with the big event that happened and kind of shut down the planet for a year and a half to 2 years. What they're doing today and now, more and more I hear it every time going to work in the mornings on the radio. The green agenda is huge, but what they're planning behind that is going to make people so restrictive. It actually blew my mind when I seen this video. Someone said it to me. I watched it. It's only like 4 or 5 minutes, but the amount of information that's actually out there that you can see, this is in their documents. It's an organization called C40. What they're planning is absolutely madness. It's something that we would see in the beast system, the final system, when that man of sin, the lawless one, takes control for that period of time, has a system in place. Revelation tells us the type of control he has. What I'll ask you to do is to watch it unfold, to get the full context. But remember to smash the like button just to get this out to as many as possible, so that one soul may come across who truly Christ did. And if you do want to get in touch, my email is below in the description. Just have a listen to this, what Jordan Peterson said about what is going on.
Into the C40 websites. The C40 is the consortium of municipalities that have signed on to the 15-minute city plan. And I read in their own documentation, this is relevant to the tri-state city idea, that their goals are to reduce caloric consumption to 2,500 calories a day by force, essentially, within the next 15 years, to ensure that the peasant class, which is everybody but the elitists, can't fly more than one time every 3 years, to not merely shift private car ownership from fossil fuel to electric, which is fundamentally impossible because the grid can't handle it, but to eliminate 90% of private car ownership so that people are forced to take, unbelievably expensive in terms of time utilization and non-existent public transportation systems, and to limit the amount of travel that people can do outside of their neighborhoods. And, and then I watch the legacy media claim that pointing that out is something akin to a right-wing conspiracy, which it most certainly isn't, because you can just find the bloody documentation online. And then I look at places like China, which have taken this to an extreme. 600 million closed-circuit TV cameras in China. One for every 1.5 persons watching the Chinese all the time, able to monitor them 100% by face, and also to identify them by gait, and to limit their ability to do absolutely anything, to buy, to sell, to travel, to move, to leave their neighborhood, with this top-down surveillance system that perversely and consciously some of the Chinese engineers have actually named Skynet. And in a conscious attempt to produce a positive version of, the absolutely catastrophic, apocalyptic artificial intelligence that was in the bloody Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And you can't even talk about this stuff without sounding like a raving conspiratorialist. But there it is. Now, tell me more about the tri-state city. So what have you seen? Because I don't know anything about it. Neither does anybody else watching, I presume, except for, those who've gone down the rabbit hole with you.
I was reading a book about cholera a couple of years ago. I think it was called Ghost Map. And interestingly, towards the end of the book, the author, in an otherwise excellent book, started talking about these smart cities where, basically everything, we don't have to worry about any disease anymore, that sort of thing. Last time I was in China, I got kicked out of Hong Kong in 2020. I was a bad boy. I was watching the protests and they finally kicked me out after 7 months. That was Hong Kong. But the last time I was in mainland China, I was actually researching information more. I was in places like Nanjing and Shanghai and that sort of thing. But I was in southern China, where the Uyghurs are, for part of that trip. And I was talking with restaurant owners and farmers and that sort of thing. And various restaurant owners told me that when a Uyghur comes in, they are mandated by law to call the police immediately. The police immediately come to check. So the smart city goes beyond mere optics. They're installing those cameras all over Hong Kong. They were doing that when I left. That's in Hong Kong. But over in mainland China, it's not just the cameras everywhere. It's also, you're mandated to call. When I was in Hong Kong, by the way, in the protest, the protesters would take their lasers and shine them in the cameras and burn out the sensors. Actually, my camera got a little damaged by it. But that's not a long-term solution, obviously. But what I'm getting to is these smart cities are clearly coming, and they're already here to some degree every time we use our cards and that sort of thing. But they're clearly taking it to a higher level of complete control. And again, this isn't conspiratorial. They say they're going to do it. I mean, talk about Mark Rutte, the Prime Minister of Netherlands. You can see Klaus Schwab going, where do you find such prime ministers as Mark Rutte? Did you see him say? I watch your Twitter, Jordan, and I watch a lot of your podcast. I know you know what's going on because you talk about it all the time.
For me, over the last kind of few years, these are the things that I've been shouting out at the top of the roof. While everyone was distracted with what was going on, they were sneaking these type of things in behind the scene. Now, as a believer in Christ and a believer in prophecy, certain things we cannot stop as much as we wanted to. When we see some of the bad that's actually coming along with it, the cycle has to actually happen. What we do in the meantime is we still have time to share the gospel, the good news of Christ to people who are lost. And many ask me questions like this: what can we see happening? And if you do want to get in touch, my email is below in the description, because many people ask certain questions and sometimes answers can be hard to come by. But I know in me gut, in me heart of hearts, we are truly the final generation. We're seeing things lining up, cashless society, travel's going to be restricted. When we pass into that system, for those who are here for it, it's going to be very hard when the mark of the beast comes along to buy or sell if they tell you you cannot without it. Now we can see that can actually happen. We're that generation to see that in play. But like always, regardless of all the chaos that's going on in the world, God is truly still always in control, and keep that faith.